Pulp Fiction, which won the top prize at Cannes this year, is the second film written and directed by Tarantino, a self-described movie geek who spent 5 years working at a video rental store.
There are scenes from Pulp Fiction that most fans have never seen, because Tarantino deliberately kept it out. It was filmed, edited, and then locked away, never making it to theaters or even bonus reels. Quentin Tarantino himself decided to cut it, and for years, it's been buried in whispers and rumors. Some say it changes how you see the characters. Others believe it reveals too much. But why did Tarantino hide it? And what really happened in that lost moment? Join us as we uncover the scene Tarantino didn't want you to see. How Pulp Fiction was born. Long before Pulp Fiction became a hit around the world, it started out as just an idea between two young filmmakers who had no big money and no studio backing them. One of them was Quentin Tarantino, a former video store clerk who had a deep love for movies. The other was Roger Avary, a friend and collaborator who also loved telling stories. Together, they started building a movie that would later change the way people looked at independent films. In the early 1990s, they worked on a script called Pandemonium Reigns. It was a strange, gritty, and wild story written by Avary. When Tarantino read it, he knew it had something special. So he took that script and started adding scenes, building characters, and creating a world that felt fresh and dangerous. Some of those early parts became the building blocks for Pulp Fiction. They spent time in Amsterdam writing and talking about different stories. They didn't just write one long plot from start to finish. Instead, they put together different stories that were all mixed up in time but somehow connected. These stories didn't follow the usual rules of storytelling. One was about a boxer. Another was about two hitmen. Another was about a drug overdose. The way the scenes jumped around made the movie feel more exciting. And the best part was it felt real, like you were in the room with those characters. But here's the most astonishing part. The name Pulp Fiction came from cheap magazines that were sold in the 1930s and 1940s. These magazines had colorful covers and were filled with fast-paced stories about crime, action, and drama. The paper they were printed on was cheap pulp, and that's why they were called pulp magazines. Tarantino wanted to capture that same raw energy. He wanted the movie to feel wild, like those old stories where anything could happen, and he did just that. But when they finished writing the script, they had a problem. No one in Hollywood wanted it. Many studios rejected it right away. One executive even said it was the worst script he had ever read. But Tarantino didn't give up. He believed in the story. Then Miramax came, a smaller studio at the time that was run by the Weinstein brothers. They agreed to produce the film and gave Tarantino full creative control. That meant he could make the movie exactly the way he wanted, without anyone changing his ideas. However, when it came to casting, there were more battles. Harvey Weinstein didn't want John Travolta to be in the movie. At that time, Travolta's career had slowed down. But Tarantino saw something in him. He believed Travolta was perfect for the role of Vincent Vega, the cool and quiet hitman. After much discussion, Travolta was finally cast, and it turned out to be one of the best decisions in the film. Samuel L. Jackson's audition for the movie was so powerful that he pretty much secured the role on the spot. He brought a strong energy to the character of Jules Winfield, the other hitman. Then there was the role of Butch, the boxer. Matt Dillon almost got that part, but he waited too long to say yes. So Bruce Willis stepped in, and because he was already famous, his name helped draw more attention to the movie. Uma Thurman was not easy to convince either. She wasn't sure about the role of Mia Wallace. But Tarantino worked hard to win her over. He even read her the script over the phone until she changed her mind. Her performance became one of the most iconic parts of the film. With the cast ready and the story locked in, they started filming. Tarantino's style was different. He paid attention to every detail, from the way people talked to the songs playing in the background. Music played a big role in setting the tone of each scene. he used songs that were not very popular at the time, but after the movie came out, those songs became classics. People even started copying his style. Quick dialogue, out-of-order scenes, and unexpected violence. Once the film was finished, it was sent to the Cannes Film Festival. This is a big event where the best movies from around the world are shown. When Pulp Fiction was screened there, people were shocked. Some were amazed. Some didn't know what to think. But by the end, it received the highest prize, the Palme d'Or. This was a huge win for an indie film. The film's release in theaters was just as big. It made over $213 million worldwide. That was a huge amount for a film with a small budget. And more than just making money, it opened the door for other filmmakers who wanted to try something new. It proved that a movie didn't have to be a big studio blockbuster to be successful. But not everything about the movie was shown to the public. Some scenes were filmed but later removed. These deleted scenes show a different side of the story. For example, there was a longer and more graphic version of Marvin's death. In the final version, it's already shocking when Vincent accidentally shoots Marvin in the face. But in the original take, they used 5 gallons of fake blood and a fake head to show everything. It was very messy. The scene was later changed to make sure the movie didn't get a harsher rating from the MPAA, the group that gives movies their age ratings. Another deleted scene involved Mia Wallace and Vincent Vega. After their dinner at Jack Rabbit Slim's, there was a scene where Mia used a camcorder to record Vincent. She asked him deep and personal questions. This scene showed how clever and sharp Mia really was. It also gave us a better look at the strange but growing connection between her and Vincent. But the scene was cut to keep the film moving at a faster pace. Then there was a monologue by Lance, the drug dealer played by Eric Stoltz. He had a 3-minute rant that was loud and full of emotion. But again, Tarantino removed it to keep the flow of the movie clean. Some fans wish these scenes had been kept in the final cut, but Tarantino believed that taking them out made the movie stronger. One of the most mysterious characters in the movie is the Gimp, a man in a leather suit found in the pawnshop basement. Originally, the Gimp had a backstory. He was once a hitchhiker who got captured and was held in chains for 7 years. That part was never explained in the movie, but it was part of the original plan. Also, the Gimp dies in the film, though it's not clearly shown. In the script, he is knocked out and never wakes up. It's a dark and sad detail that was left out of the final version. Another cut scene involved Butch and the cab driver Esmeralda. In the movie, we see them talking in the cab, but in the full version, the conversation is longer. Esmeralda talks about death and what it means to kill someone. Butch talks about his past and what it feels like to fight. This scene gave more depth to both characters, but it was trimmed down to keep things tight. Now, all these behind-the-scenes details help us understand just how much effort went into making Pulp Fiction. It was not just a random set of cool scenes. Every part was carefully written, filmed, and edited to tell a bigger story. And even though many scenes were removed, they still show how deep and creative the project really was. Stay tuned as we dive deeper into the most mysterious parts of the film, including what was really inside that glowing briefcase and why Tarantino never wanted you to see certain scenes. Secrets and the glowing briefcase. Once Pulp Fiction hit theaters, people didn't just watch it once and walk away. They kept going back, trying to figure out what every scene meant. Some of the biggest questions were about the symbols hidden in the movie and the mystery behind certain moments that were never fully explained. One of the biggest mysteries is the briefcase. In the movie, we see Vincent open it a few times. When he does, a warm golden light shines on his face. But we never actually see what's inside. The movie never tells us. It just leaves it open for us to imagine. And because of that, fans have come up with all kinds of theories. Some people believe that the briefcase holds Marcellus Wallace's soul. This idea comes from a few small clues. First, there's the fact that the briefcase has a lock code, 666, a number often tied to dark or evil meanings. Then, there's the Band-Aid on the back of Marcellus's head. Some fans say that's where his soul was taken from. It's based on an old story that says, the devil removes a person's soul through a hole in the back of their head. So when Vincent opens the case and sees that golden light, people believe he's staring at a human soul. Here's the most interesting part. Tarantino never confirmed any of these ideas, but he also never denied them. Other fans think the briefcase just contains gold or diamonds, something valuable but not magical. Some even think it might be a simple film joke. In fact, the golden light was created using a small orange light bulb inside the case. The actors didn't even know what was supposed to be in there. Tarantino once said the briefcase was a MacGuffin, a term for something that drives the plot but isn't important by itself. He wanted the audience to focus more on the characters and their decisions than on what was in the case. But the mystery didn't end there. Another thing that caught people's attention was how the characters connected in ways that weren't obvious at first. Take Vincent Vega, for example. He's partnered with Jules, and they both work for Marcellus. But Vincent also shares a small link with Butch, the boxer. Remember the gold watch Butch went back for? The one his father had hidden during the war. That scene was written in a way that added emotion to Butch's character, showing that even in a world full of crime and violence, some things still matter more than money. There was also the strange connection between Vincent Vega and Vic Vega, the character played by Michael Madsen in Reservoir Dogs. Quentin Tarantino revealed that these two are actually brothers. He even considered making a movie about them called The Vega Brothers. That film never happened, but it shows how Tarantino was building a larger world where his characters could overlap, even across different movies. Now let's talk about the strange events around the apartment shooting scene. When Jules and Vincent show up to get the briefcase from the three young guys, something odd happens. After Jules delivers his long speech and they shoot the two men, another man jumps out from the bathroom and empties a gun right at them. But not a single bullet hits them. They just stand there, unharmed. Jules sees this as a sign from God, a miracle. Vincent, on the other hand, says it was just luck. This moment creates a split in their thinking. Jules decides to leave the criminal life. Vincent keeps going, and later pays the price. This moment in the film led to real-life debates. Was it really a miracle or just a coincidence? Tarantino never gave a clear answer. That's part of what made the movie special. It didn't spoon-feed answers to the audience. Instead, it made people talk, argue, and guess. Another hidden detail is the mysterious man in the bathroom. In the original script, he actually has a name, Paul. And the reason he hides in the bathroom with a gun is because he's waiting for the right moment to defend his friends. But Tarantino decided to cut down his lines to keep the scene sharp and intense. Still, the idea of someone hiding quietly just feet away adds tension and suspense. It makes us wonder how many other small things were trimmed out of the film that could have added more layers to the story. There's also the story behind the suits that Vincent and Jules wear. In one scene, they end up changing into casual clothes, t-shirts and shorts, because their suits are ruined. This part of the movie is often played for laughs, especially when they show up at Jimmy's house. But there's a deeper reason Tarantino added that scene. It reminds viewers that underneath all the tough talk and cool lines, these characters are human. They bleed, they panic, and they make mistakes. Then we have the restaurant robbery scene with Pumpkin and Honey Bunny. That moment actually circles back to the beginning of the movie, and when we reach the end, we realize the film has looped back to that scene. It's the same moment, but now from a different point of view. This looping structure was unusual at the time, but Tarantino used it to show how stories can connect in unexpected ways. It also gave a full-circle feeling, tying up the characters' decisions. However, one lesser-known fact is that the original script included an extra scene after Jules lets Pumpkin and Honey Bunny go. In that cut scene, Jules walks outside and sees a young boy on the street. The boy thanks him for not killing anyone. That moment was meant to show that Jules had truly changed, but the scene was removed, possibly to keep the mystery of his decision stronger. And speaking of scenes that were removed, there's another mystery involving Marvin, the young man who gets accidentally shot in the car. In the final cut, it's a quick moment that shocks everyone. But in an early draft, there was a follow-up where the characters argued longer about what to do with his body. It included more back and forth between Vincent and Jules, and more pressure on Jimmy as they tried to clean up the mess. While this could have added more depth, Tarantino cut it to keep the film from feeling too heavy in the middle. Some of the props in the movie also have hidden meanings. The glowing briefcase, the gold watch, and even the menu at Jack Rabbit Slim's all serve a purpose. The watch represents honor and family.
This watch I got here was first purchased by your great-grandfather during the First World War. It was bought in a little general store in Knoxville, Tennessee. Made by the first company to make wristwatches.
The briefcase is Desire, and the 1950s themed restaurant shows how the characters live in a world that's stuck in the past, trying to look cool even while making terrible choices. One of the most fascinating things about Pulp Fiction is how it mixes funny moments with brutal ones, like how many laugh at the strange conversations between Jules and Vincent about hamburgers or foot massages. But then we see violent scenes that remind us this isn't just a comedy. Tarantino created a world where humor and horror could sit side by side, which made every moment feel unpredictable. It's also worth noting that many of the film's best lines weren't even in the original script. Some were made up on the spot. Samuel L. Jackson's famous line, "Say what again?" was improvised.
Describe what Marcellus Wallace looks like. What? Say what again? Say what again?
It became one of the most quoted moments in movie history. Tarantino encouraged his actors to bring their own style to the roles, which helped the dialogue feel natural and real. As more people watched and studied Pulp Fiction, they started to notice all these little pieces that made the film what it is. It wasn't just the acting, or the violence, or the cool music. It was the way everything worked together. The writing, the timing, the little details you might miss the first time. Here's the most intriguing part. Fame, fallout, and the forgotten friendships behind Pulp Fiction. After Pulp Fiction took the world by storm, it didn't just change cinema, it changed lives. Quentin Tarantino became one of the most talked-about directors in Hollywood. Almost overnight, he went from being a video store clerk and indie filmmaker to one of the most powerful creative voices in movies. His name was suddenly everywhere. He was doing interviews, appearing on red carpets, and working with the biggest actors in the business. But while the world was cheering for Tarantino, something else was happening quietly in the background. A friendship was falling apart. That friendship was between Quentin Tarantino and Roger Avary. Roger wasn't just a friend. He was there from the very beginning. They had worked together at a video rental store in California. That was where they shared their love for films, spent hours talking about ideas, and slowly began creating what would one day become Pulp Fiction. In fact, Roger had written a short film called Pandemonium Reigns, which later inspired some of the key scenes in Pulp Fiction, like the one with Vincent and Marvin in the car. At first, everything seemed perfect. The two friends worked closely on the script. They shared wild ideas, talked about crime stories, and created characters that felt real but larger than life. When Pulp Fiction came out, they were both credited for the screenplay. And when the film won the Oscar for Best Original Screenplay in 1995, they shared the award. But that's when things began to change. After the Oscars, Tarantino's name kept rising. He became the face of Pulp Fiction. Directors, actors, and fans were lining up to work with him. Magazines put him on their covers. His interviews were full of energy and personality, and he quickly became a pop culture icon. But Roger Avary didn't get the same spotlight. While he had played a major role in writing the script, many people didn't even know his name. He wasn't invited to the same events. He wasn't asked to direct major films, and over time, he began to feel left behind. This led to a quiet but painful fallout between the two. Roger felt that he had been pushed into the shadows. He believed his ideas were just as important and that he deserved more credit. Tarantino, on the other hand, was focused on building his career. He didn't speak much about the split, and he rarely mentioned Roger in public. That silence spoke volumes. The friendship that had once been full of excitement and creativity had slowly turned cold. Roger Avary did go on to direct his own films. He made Killing Zoe, a gritty crime movie, and later directed The Rules of Attraction, based on a novel by Bret Easton Ellis. Both films showed his talent and bold style, but none of them reached the level of success that Pulp Fiction did. While Tarantino went on to make hit after hit like Kill Bill, Inglourious Basterds, and Django Unchained, Roger's career struggled to keep up. Then, things took a darker turn. In 2008, Roger Avary was involved in a tragic car accident. He had been drinking and driving with two passengers. The crash killed one of them. Avary was charged with vehicular manslaughter and driving under the influence. He was sentenced to 1 year in jail. It was a heartbreaking chapter in his life, and it marked another low point in the years after Pulp Fiction. While Roger was facing legal trouble, Tarantino was standing on stage at award shows, receiving standing ovations, and planning his next big film. The gap between their lives had grown wider, but even with all the fame and fortune, the story didn't feel complete without the man who helped it begin. So years later, Roger and Quentin quietly made peace. They didn't go back to being close friends, but there was a sense of mutual respect again. In fact, in 2022, the two reunited for a podcast called the Video Archives Podcast, named after the video rental store where it all began. On the show, they talked about movies just like they used to, laughing, analyzing, and sharing memories. It wasn't a full return to the old days, but it was a sign that some wounds had healed. Still, the story of their friendship is one that many fans don't know. When people think of Pulp Fiction, they see Tarantino's name in bright lights. They see the unforgettable scenes, the sharp dialogue, and the wild stories. But behind those scenes was a partnership that shaped the heart of the movie. And speaking of scenes, there's one more thing that makes this story even more fascinating. In recent years, Quentin Tarantino shocked fans by announcing that he was planning to sell unreleased scenes from Pulp Fiction as NFTs. That's right, he had scenes that no one had ever seen before. Some of them included early drafts of the script, behind-the-scenes footage, and even alternate versions of famous moments. But when Miramax, the studio behind the film, found out, they filed a lawsuit against him. They argued that they owned the rights and that Tarantino had no right to sell the material. This turned into a legal battle between the director and the very company that once gave him full creative control. For fans, it reminded them that even the most successful films come with a lot of behind-the-scenes drama. While the court case played out, fans couldn't help but wonder, what was in those scenes? Was it something that would change how we see the movie? Would it finally show parts of Roger Avary's original vision? Or was it something so shocking that Tarantino had kept it hidden all these years? Whatever the answer, One thing is clear: Pulp Fiction is more than just a movie. It's a story full of stories. There are the scenes we all remember, like Jules and Vincent talking about burgers, or Mia and Vincent dancing at Jack Rabbit Slim's. But there are also the scenes we never saw, and the relationships we never heard about. From the early days of two friends writing scripts in a video store, to winning Oscars and changing cinema forever, to falling apart and finding their way back. It's a story almost as wild as the movie itself. And even though Tarantino became the star of that story, Roger Avary's fingerprints are still all over it. So, do you think Roger Avary deserved more credit for Pulp Fiction? Or was Tarantino right to take the spotlight? And if those lost scenes were finally released, do you think they would change how we see the film today? Drop it in the comments section below. If you enjoyed watching this video, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more. Also, click the next video shown on your screen. You will enjoy it.